In life, there's good and there's bad. And sometimes in life, you're going to go through bad things, you know. And sometimes in life, you're going to go through good things. And that is why I appreciate spirituality, because I understand that. I used to ask myself these questions. I used to ask, um, like, what is my purpose in life? Or why am I brought into the world? You know, because from a very young age, I understood that I am a spirit having a human experience. So, on my last videos, I spoke about how I left religion, how I left Christianity, and today I'm gonna touch on or discuss my path back to spirituality. So, when I say back to spirituality, I want to clarify on that. Spirituality is not a new concept, it's not religion, it's not something that was created now, or a new age, concept, or some I just stumbled across. No, you know, spirituality is, in my understanding, a way of living, right? And it's 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 about my identity. So in my understanding, or in my personal experience, spirituality is about, you know, me knowing who I am, knowing where I come from, and knowing where I'm going. That is what spirituality is for me. And I do practice African indigenous spirituality. So why did I gravitate to spirituality? So I think, first of all, we need to understand that spirituality is very vast, it's very diverse, and people practice it in different ways, right? But one thing for sure, you need to be guided through it. It's a journey, it's a path that you choose to take, right? It's not something that you are forced into, you know, like religion, like Christianity. Spirituality for me is knowing my true purpose on earth. It's knowing who I am, where I'm coming from, and where I'm going. Why are those things important? They're important because we all know how life is. Life is very hard, and in order for you to navigate this life, it's very important to know where are you going, what exactly you're doing, you know. And in order for you to know where you're going, you need to know where you come from. You need to know where you are presently in your life. You know, I've mentioned this before, that as a young child, growing up, I'm still growing, I know, but when I was much younger, I used to ask myself, I used to question a lot, and I used to ask myself these questions. I used to ask, um, like, what is my purpose in life? Or why am I brought into the world? You know, because from a very young age, I understood that I am a spirit having a human experience. That is something I understood very early on in life, and I'm so grateful for that. But I never used to understand what it is that I am brought into this world to do, you know, because I always felt like, as people, there is a reason why we are on earth. There is a reason to everything. I always thought that, and I still do believe that. I still believe that, there's a reason to everything. There's meaning to life. There's reason why we are on earth, you know. Um and that we all have a purpose. We all have like a goal to fulfill. You understand? Situation. Back then,
our ancestors used to know the difference between good and bad. Back then there was spirituality. Hence, we say spirituality is not a new concept. It's not something new. It's not religion. It's not something that is started now, or a movement of some sort. It begs. Actually, spirituality is something that we are born with. Why? Because our spirits know. Your spirit can tell if something is not right, or if something is okay, or it's good. It can tell the difference between good and bad. You understand? Back then in ancient times, our ancestors used to communicate with spiritual guides. They used to practice spirituality before religion came to us, in different ways. And then when Christianity came to Africa, they told us, no, 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 stop this, leave it all and follow this. Take this. Thatha nayi le ncwadi yeBhayibhile izokukhombisa indlela. You understand? And we were quickly, when I say we, I mean our ancestors were quickly taught that no, 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 what you're doing is wrong. You should follow this way. Why? Because it was a way to control us. It was a way to enslave us, right? But our ancestors already practiced spirituality way, way back. They knew about sacred places meaning the mountains, the rivers. They would pray, and do like certain, I can call them rituals, to honor, the creator. You understand? Or ask from the creator, right? There was order back then, worse back then than it is now. Things are way worse than right now. Why? Because we have lost our spiritual ways. We have lost our spiritual identity. Okay. That is why things are really bad. That's why things are just getting worse and worse and worse by day. So going back to the topic of spirituality, that is why I say that I returned back to spirituality. Not that I moved from religion and went into. No, I returned because I'm returning to what is real to me, what is familiar to my spirit, because your spirit knows. In fact, actually, there is a Bible verse. In Corinthians chapter 3, verse 6, name. I think it's a scripture on David that goes, the letter kills, but the spirit gives life. My understanding is your spirit knows. Your spirit knows. Some people, they call it intuition, some people call it, yeah, a sense, a gut feeling. That's why we sometimes hear people say, no, something is not right. You understand? Because where are you getting that something is not right? It's unexplainable, but it's there, and it's your spirit telling you that. So you can't tell me that if it wasn't for the Bible, I wouldn't know the difference between good and bad. You can't tell me that, because my spirit already knows the difference between good and bad. But with saying that, that does not mean that we can all just leave, without proper guidance. In life, you need guidance. It's like when a child is born. When a child is born, who is responsible for the child? That is why they call a child a minor. A child cannot do certain things without a guardian or a parent. Why? Because they are too young to know stuff, or to understand, or to reason. You understand? They are too young, so they need to be guided, right? Hence, my point that I'm trying to say here is that, this path that I've taken, this path that I'm going through, of Some call it spiritual awakening. They call it the awakening. Okay, maybe I can also use that term, awakening. You know, or being enlightened. I feel like being enlightened is much more a better term to use here. Being enlightened, uh, it's a journey. It's a journey, and that is why I, Unompilo, practice African indigenous spirituality under the guidance of Imoni or Dr. Uzulezwe.